Keys to the Commonwealth, a podcast where we share the real stories of local community members who are using real estate to build personal wealth, along with tips and tricks from professionals across the industry. And now, your host, Landry Fields.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. I am joined today by Andrea Coughtry, who is, I would say, an entrepreneur at heart, I think, in many ways. But we're excited to hear her story, learn everything that she's doing on both the realty side, property management side, and commercial and residential owning of property. So without further ado, Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I feel like this is like rapid fire because we've met.
Yeah.
And you've met my husband.
Right.
But we don't know what we're going to talk about so much. So this is kind of fun.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I've always usually had these very planned out in some respects, and I kind of like that. And it definitely got me very comfortable in an interview process.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes just going with it and not, we kind of know where we're going, but at the same time, it can open up interesting parts for conversation. Who knows where we're going to go.
Yeah.
So
that's exciting.
But yeah, we always start every podcast off with kind of jumping back in the DeLorean, jump back and say, hey, how did you get to Lexington and into real estate and so forth to begin with? Tell us about who you are.
Yeah. So the funny thing is I used to always equate my start in real estate to my husband because he had these horrible properties that were horribly managed, that it was just like a show, right?
Right.
And we told you that story, but obviously we haven't told the listeners that story. But I actually realized that my grandmother still to this day owns and lives on a trailer court. So I don't know why she has rented and owned a trailer court. So like,
it was just part of your normal, like you didn't even think about it.
I never even thought about that. Yeah. And then the other day after we spoke, I was like, you know what? Husband, you're not the reason I have my start in real estate. Okay. Maybe it was always there and I didn't know that. So she is like literally 86 years old running a trailer court still, I swear to you. Like,
really? Oh, she's running it.
Yeah, she lives on it, runs it. Wow. Yeah, it's like a whole thing in
that's kind of
Eastern Kentucky.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to know her stories, right? Who knows what kind of stories she has.
Her and the thing is, it's like a real one. So like there's like some real that goes down.
Right.
I remember being a kid and she was like, get out there and play. And I'd be like, I'm scared. Yeah. I don't want to go play.
Because you're originally from Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
Right?
Pike County.
Yeah. So definitely a different world, obviously, in that sense. So kind of talk to me about growing up in Pike County, what you did before that, and then now I love the story of how you've made it over in the sense like, more on the entrepreneur side, moved to Lexington, and you got your hands on a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I went to the University of Pikeville. Okay. That's where I got my master's in business administration. My emphasis was marketing. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was looking for something to kind of do that because I had done news, actually, funny enough. Okay. I mentioned that to you earlier. Yeah. And it was too demanding time-wise. I had my son young, so I already had my son. Okay. And I wanted something that I could do while being in grad school, make some money, but be flexible. Yeah. And between my husband's really bad real estate portfolio and finding out how bad property managers were, it was just so easy to take that on. So I started doing property management.
Like, here, let me take this. I got this. Surely I can do better than what's happening.
And for sure I did. And the funny thing was those properties, we had 23 in Atlanta at the time. Yeah. And a few kind of dispersed around different areas, like one in Rochester, New York, 23 in Atlanta, like one in Eastern Kentucky that he hadn't gotten rent for in like a year. It was bad. Okay. Right. So I'm like, we tried multiple property managers and property groups in Georgia, which you would think there would be a lot to choose from there. That's a big city. Yeah. And I spent more time just going through the books and finding mistakes and fighting for reimbursement and disputing charges than I could have just doing it virtually. So at the time, being in grad school, I literally was doing all this, but like mailing in checks, Excel spreadsheets, 23 properties out of state. We uncovered like so much crap at each of those properties. Yeah,
tell me about the one of those stories where you thought something had been fixed or something like the siding. Is that right?
That's a big one. That one was kind of crazy. So my dad actually, he is like jack of all trades. He could do anything. So I'm like, all right, I've taken over these properties for a period of time now. Like, let's actually look at them. Because my husband had never seen any of them. Okay. None of them.
Very hands off.
Yes.
Passive investor.
Yes. Very, very. But like, with improper management. It was crazy. So my dad goes down to this vacant unit to look at it.
Yeah.
We were like trying to take inventory of what we had. The market was doing really well. Some of these had been rezoned into amazing school districts. So he goes down, he's like, I thought you said that this one had new siding. I'm like, look, this is just what Brendan told me, okay? I don't know, and I don't think he knows. My dad's like, yeah, they put siding on 3 sides of it, which were the photos my husband got of the front and one side. The back was like exposed wood. I don't know how it didn't rot. And for example, like in a kitchen, so she would do one kitchen right in like a quadplex, and then the other 3 would have like floor tile for the backsplash. Like
so he was like taking money to fix these things up, and she was probably just doing one nice 3 non so well, and pocketing probably the difference.
So she would do 3 sides of the building, not the back, renovate one, not the other 3. Total fraud. It was a really big nightmare. But the crazy thing is my husband really just has the biggest heart. He was like, I don't know. Do you think she'd do that? Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Like it is. Yeah.
No, and he's great. I've met him obviously like that. But it's hard when you're also, because he's obviously in the medical field and doing other things. When you're trying to also do real estate investing from a passive standpoint, it's hard to have that time to really be able to kind of check in on those things. And that's where like the aspect of having a great property manager is so key. I mean, because the one that you can trust and things are getting done. And obviously that wasn't the case in this, but hopefully I think that is the case now.
For sure,
so you have taken over, I think, most of that stuff and kind of have that as part of the other thing that you do with real estate investing.
Yeah.
Right.
And at this point, we have sold everything in Georgia except for 2 houses.
Okay.
And then with that, most of those were 1031 exchanges. Mm-hmm. Actually, 3 of the quadplexes that had really good school rezone, we actually sold those. Okay. Took the capital gains hit and invested in some ramen noodle franchises there in Georgia. So
we're going to bring those to Kentucky?
I don't know because we've thought about it, but the thing is our partners there are such rock stars, and somebody here would have to be the rock star, but I stay in my vertical. Yeah. Like real estate's my thing. I'll sell them the building, I'll manage the building, I'll lease it up, but I don't I stay in what I know. Yeah,
and I think it's a good point. I think it's a good piece of wisdom right there, right? Staying in kind of your husband's great at what he does and stuff like that. You're great at what you do, like that. I'm good in insurance. I'm good in real estate, but I'm not going to be good at property managing. My property manager is my real estate partner, and he does fantastic at that type of thing. And so,
well, something that my husband has always said, nobody cares about your baby like you do, and we believe that wholeheartedly. In that. Your partners have to believe in it and be a part of it. Yeah. You want the people you're involved with to have a piece of it because, for me, these properties mean everything because it's our investment stream, it's our passive income, it's our active income, it's, my image because, I've got clients who trust me with their portfolios, and because I'm also in this property management, I'm also in this investing, it makes it different. Sure. You care a little more. A lot of times what you have at property management groups, what I've found is you've got a guy maybe who cared at one point, but you've got all these young people or older people who don't give a crap. They're there, they're punching in and out, and they don't care. And that's the hard thing.
A little bit unique with you is that you're usually a part of all facets of it, from the acquisition, not only the property management side of things, but also you're there as far as the building that relationship with them, even on the acquisition side a lot of times, right? Yeah.
It's like a one-stop shop. Yeah. So
talk about the whole business then from that standpoint as far as what all you do with that.
In real estate, I think you hear a lot, what's your niche? Find your niche. And it's like I never...
I hear that in insurance a lot too, don't
you do. Like, what niche? I mean, we're all buying and selling real estate. But honestly, something that organically has just happened. And it's funny because it's what I've done. Yeah. And you just think everyone else is doing it, but they're not. There's actually a ton of real estate agents who might own a house here or there, but many of them don't have multi-million-dollar portfolios. Yeah. Many of them do not invest in commercial SFR. They don't do that themselves. So what I found, I have this really easy ability to discuss with somebody what are your goals? Okay, so your wife makes whatever a month, and your goal is to replace her salary so she can retire and stay home and take care of the kids, but you guys still have that money coming in. All right, what's that amount? all right, what types of properties? Because I've invested in all of them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't do flips. I don't do like Airbnb or anything like that. Like I said, I pretty much stay in a niche, and I buy, I hold, I rent. That's what I do.
So commercial properties, as well as like flex type stuff, as well as and then habitational, multifamily type of things.
Yeah.
Is that primarily the?
Yeah. So it's large. At this point, it's all large multifamily or commercial.
Yeah.
Commercial, office, or medical. We've done kind of all that. So because I have done different investing strategies in the buy hold, which is typically somebody who's looking for like a steady residual, like income
or
replacement.
Or something along
That's
those
what they
lines.
want. They want something a little safer. You know, it's risky but safe. So I start on the consultation side. What are we looking to do? Okay, what types of properties, investments within real estate, of course, fits the bill, all right? Then I go and help find those, procure those properties. Then I help them purchase those properties. And then I help them do renovation, lease it up, and then manage it. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. So like as soon as I leave here, I'm going to meet a client who just flew in last night from Hawaii.
Yeah,
it's
you were
first
mentioning
time
you've got
in
a
Kentucky.
client, so you spent a client for a while out of Hawaii, and you've got clients all over, it seems like, investing in Lexington area and so forth, or different parts of Kentucky. But that's a cool aspect of like being able to kind of, and I know she's coming in for the first time kind of a thing, and be able to show them, it's a weird concept to me of like not even being able to see with my own eyes what I'm buying for like a real estate type of a purchase. I mean, I guess it's no difference in stocks in some respects. You don't see the companies you're necessarily really, but
it all hinges on
so they're really
who
trusting
you
in
have
that scenario too, if they're not even never even seeing it.
Because think about what happened to my husband. You know, she was a sweet old lady. Like, there was no reason to think she was a total fraud. Like, and it's just straight up, I'm not talking trash. It just was. And, he trusted her wholeheartedly. Like, he thought that, she was a family member to him at that point. And it was just not that way. And so for me, having had that happen to us, I take like that extra care, and like, I want them to be happy when they eventually come here and visit. I want them to be like, okay, so I try to advise them as best as I legally can as far as schools and neighborhoods and everything. But ultimately, it's their portfolio and their decision, and I work for them.
Yeah. You have to have that mindset.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, like, real estate agents, insurance agents, we don't feel like we're in the service industry like we are. We definitely service our clients. Like you have to have that mindset. And when people tell me, oh, I'm getting into real estate because I want flexibility, I want to set my own schedule, I'm like, what kind of real estate are you going to work in? Because I haven't found that yet.
Yeah, you're always on. I mean, you don't really get to hang it up, turn it off. You never really go on vacation. You just go on trips. Type of thing. No, so I get it a lot, but and that's really neat how you've kind of been able to utilize and bring that to a lot of people, investors outside of this. And to that point, I know we were talking off air. You even had the opportunity to be on a couple into HGTV type of scenarios as well, which you were saying one of them was the boat scenario. What, you got to say that again. I feel like I at least know what these shows are or seen it, but that was one I was not familiar with.
Well, for sure, HGTV House Hunters. Yeah. So I did an episode of HGTV House Hunters. That was a lot of time. A lot of time.
Was it like a whole day kind of a thing?
Oh my gosh, multiple days, tons of work. It was a lot that went into that.
Yeah.
But the most recent TV that I did was Below Deck, which is like, it's on Bravo. You're familiar with the network.
Okay,
and it's like just these people on these mega yachts. Like, you charter this mega yacht.
Okay.
And this show really, like, the premise of it.
Yeah, what's the premise? That's what
is the crazy drama between the like stews and the chef and the captain on the boat.
Really?
So like they have so much drama, like they're sleeping together or they're like throwing food at each other.
Because they're like half living on this thing probably at the same time.
Yeah, because they all live on it while they're doing these charters.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you're like guest one of however many that season. So that whole season you got these young like people running the boat and the captain's trying to like keep them in order. It's like wild. And the chef is always like catching something something on fire or burning his hand. And he did burn his hand while we were there. I think somebody got fired while we were there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The guys dressed up like, Chip and Dale, like firemen. It was it was a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was with a group of girls from mainly Lexington. They all had roots.
Gotcha.
To the area.
Sure.
Yeah. A couple of them were realtors as well. So,
yeah. So you've kind of, have you branched off? You guys just got a new office and kind of moved some things around and kind of tell me what's on your horizon for this year.
Yeah.
Obviously the market's changing rapidly at this point. Rates are crazy, out of control. So you really have to be more focused on what you're trying to achieve, how to achieve it, and be kind of quick. I mean, there's no time to delay or wait a lot of times these days, right? So
no, I think everything in real estate right now is a lot about like mindset.
Yeah.
And you're like gearing up for this marathon because just this month, everything has switched in Lexington.
Yeah.
Everything. Like last month and before that, I was like, oh, we're not paying over list price unless I was kind of like, check yourself, buyers. Like, we're not paying over list price. I lied to you.
Yeah.
Because now, in the last 2 weeks between me and my buyer's agent, we've had about 8 offers get outbid. Wow. And I'm talking really good offers.
There's this weird false sense of like, all right, maybe things are coming back down a little bit in not needing to offer over asking or different things like that, right? Maybe a few less
throw that out the
options
window
as far as the who's putting in offers on the home or the property, et cetera. But yeah, you're right. In the last month or so or two, it just ramps right back up.
Yeah, April has completely been a game changer. I mean, I feel like I'm back in last summer. I'm running, just trying to get clients in houses, right? And so on the listing side, though, it's weird, all right, because you've got like some houses that just kind of sit.
Yeah.
And that's normally an indication that it's overpriced.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's getting sellers to see that. You know, I think they want to just throw these big stickers out to see if we can fish somebody back in. And quite often you can.
Yeah.
So it's a weird, more than ever, kind of gray scale with pricing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I see it.
It's tough.
And I think there was, for people that jumped into real estate, it was probably, it's so easy back 3 years ago, right? When rates were at 2% or whatever, crazy like that. And now it's like, no, this is when realtors really show their value, obviously, because there's a lot of work that goes into trying to make sure that you can put your best foot. It's not just a matter of here's the offer, it's accepted, whatever type of thing. There's a lot of work now.
Yeah, it's not even where I think realtors can show their best self or the best version. I think it's where you can see who's actually making money. Yeah. Because in a market where you are showing one client 6, 7 houses and you keep getting outbid, you're going to have buyer fatigue. People are falling off.
Yeah.
You can sell anything. So any agent can sell in that market, right? You just stick the yard sign up. And I mean, they can screw up your deal, but anybody could sell in that kind of a market.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you really have to hone in on your skill set when there's more inventory, when you're more shifted in the buyer's market. But in this kind of a market, I think it's just when your clients are getting buyer fatigue, you really have to say who has reserves built up, who's actually running their business like a business. Yeah. How can you afford to continue paying your admin when you can't get something under contract because you're getting outbid by cash every day?
Yeah, that's a big issue, obviously. Because as we know, like the Central Kentucky market, for the most part, has always been very insulated to an extent from the outside forces of, the housing crash of 2008 and so forth like that. Obviously, college town, a lot of industries moving to this area. Obviously, throughout the pandemic, I mean, I had countless people moving here. It wasn't like a Texas or Phoenix scenario, but I mean, people were like moving here, I couldn't believe it. People that had like never stepped foot in the state and they already had a contract and were buying a house, and their first time going to be in the state of Kentucky, for example, was to walk into their new place, which was just like crazy to me. Like, I mean, maybe if they were moving to California, I understand. I'm like, people are moving to Lexington?
Oh, for sure.
Central Kentucky?
We're like a hidden gem.
Oh
we really are.
Right. We really are.
I mean, we have amazing food, amazing people. We've got beautiful homes. We've got space. We've got a great airport. Like, I love Lexington. And we looked, when I moved from Eastern Kentucky here, we looked at other options where to move, and we chose Lexington, not out of necessity, but out of, we love it. Yeah. And when you fly in, it's so beautiful. The only place I can I love to travel, too.
Yeah. Where are we going with this? Yeah.
So like Lexington reminds me of Ireland.
I was going to say, I've been to Ireland.
Yeah.
In Northern Ireland.
In a lot of sense.
Same way.
Yeah. It's like,
I would almost say that's that's the one place where it's like more green.
Yeah,
almost.
it is.
It's a crazy way.
It smells
but yeah.
really like sheep, like there. I swear to God, like it's so sheepy there.
Yeah,
like I'm always like everywhere we'd be driving, like it really smells like sheep.
Yeah.
And we don't smell like sheep, but that's the only difference.
No,
like
really,
when you're going back on
it.
like Delaney and like some of those areas in Nicholasville, I mean, you really get that sense. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
It really is. And it reminded me, because of the shows you've been, et cetera, like that a few years ago, they had the Top Chef. Remember in Lexington or Kentucky, I guess, specific. And you were just like, there's a lot of cool things. I was shocked to see a major kind of thing like that, kind of put their focus on Lexington and Kentucky and Louisville at the same time. But
Kentucky's
it's been
great.
Cool. So where do you see everything kind of going the rest of the year, 2023 at
So,
this point? I mean, obviously no one knows for sure, but you know, if I'm a buyer looking to invest in property around here and give you a call or whatnot, I mean, what's your advice in that sense as far as the season goes?
So I'm still getting deals under contract. You know, I'd rather at this point, I love my first-time home buyers. I love, you know, working with people that's their personal home, their forever home. But it's easier with the buyer because we get that's an investor because we get crazy, right? Like I was telling you about the 15 units that I just got under contract. And here's a good point. I'm still buying. I've bought in all different markets since like 07 we've been buying. And I'm buying everything that makes sense.
And a lot of people are buying everything that makes sense or anything that maybe even sometimes doesn't make sense just because they can.
Yeah. So, I mean, some people, we're in a bubble, the interest rates to me are fine. Like a 6 to an 8 is historically a decent interest rate.
Sure.
If we were looking at like 12, 13, I might be like, well, you know, my money's not going to go that far. Maybe I want to do other things with it, right?
Yeah.
But like a 6 all day, every day. Like the one I closed last month, the 15 units, I got like a 5.62. I floated it, super risky up until the day of closing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we mean by floating it?
So I literally just floated the rate till closing. So it was a total Russian roulette. Like, what are we going to get? And so my guy, I don't want to give you my guy because he's the best, you know?
Yeah, we'll
but no,
talk about
I'm kidding.
It off air.
Yeah. But I call him up and I'm like, all right, let's float it. Would you do it? He's like, sure, why not? And then
what do we have to lose?
For example, I was in a 1031 exchange. So I only had that 45 days to identify.
It's 45 days to identify.
Yeah.
And another 45 to close.
It's like 180, I think, to close. It's never a problem to close. It's the identify that scares people.
Gotcha.
To find the property.
You have to be under contract?
Yeah, you have to disclose in the 45 days what you're going to purchase.
Okay.
Maybe even it's a weird situation where you're not under contract yet. Like maybe you have something you want to sell and you're like, hey, I'm going to sell this to you, but I don't want to notify my tenant until whatever. Something, right? But as long as I disclose that I'm purchasing that, then that's fine.
And we talked about a little bit with when it comes to the 1031, almost you sometimes try to take the inverse.
For sure.
Make a play, but inversely, meaning find the property first, and then you can go and sell the property that you will eventually 1031 into that, right?
So there's a technical term, reverse 1031s.
Okay.
They're a little more tricky. I don't really do that. What I do and have always done, even in other markets, especially in this market, like if you are going to do a 1031 exchange, here's why people don't do it, because they're worried they'll lose out on. Well, I'll be straight up with you. On the one I just bought on Donnybrook, I told them it was a 1031 exchange, but I hadn't super sold the other one yet.
Yeah.
You know, like I hadn't closed on it, but it didn't matter. I had the money. I could have just bought it without the exchange, you know?
Okay.
So it wasn't risky for me because, but we were getting ready to go under contract on it. So I'm like, I need to find something. Because normally what I've done is I will go under contract with a 1031 clause, then sell my 1031 property.
Yeah.
And because normally on commercial, like you're not closing in 30 days.
That way you're not scrambling.
Yeah.
You've sold and now you just have 45 days to find something in a scramble mode. And then you probably end up with something that you, at the end of the day, probably don't want, maybe.
Yeah.
Kind of
well,
thing.
in commercial, 60, 90 days is not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So you got plenty of time to sell it. So that's kind of how I always have done it. But I've always also known, like, okay, even if that falls through, we'll probably still be able to buy it, you know?
Yeah.
But so on that one, It was listed at 1.1. We ended up escalating it up to 1.25.
Okay.
No inspection.
Right.
Hadn't seen it till the day I closed on it. And that's not unique for us. We own properties we've never seen.
Yeah.
So
it's just a whole other level and different ballgame. I mean, once you get to that point, because I mean, when you're smaller, you're like me, you've just kind of started. I mean, you have to just nickel and dime and figure out ways to get it one way or another. I mean, you got to work a lot harder.
But that's where I started.
But and you learn so much through that.
Yeah,
it's like,
for
I mean,
sure.
if you didn't go through that, then you just you wouldn't have the experience and seasoning that you need in that sense in a lot of ways.
But there's other times where in different markets that I've purchased something, had a home inspection, and hit them on every dime of like, oop, you're going to do this, that, and the other. That was my real negotiation, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, it just depends on what market you're in, what you can do. But going back to what you were asking, like for a buyer, I would love to have more investor buyers, right? Because we're going to waive inspection. We're going to not ask for closing costs normally. Like a lot of the things that, to be a primary buyer you need, it's going to make it easier to get deals done. Yeah. And I had investors last year that bought 7 deals or more. And it happened. They made it work. We made it work. We found the deals. We made the numbers work. And like we talked about off air too, it doesn't always have to be like that perfect 1% rule. You have to make the deal work now, because also like the one that I just bought that's 15 units came from a $255,000 townhouse. Like that was the money I put down.
And it's crazy when you start thinking about that, how little can go, a little over a shorter period of time relatively can turn into such a big, and start to kind of get that rock or wheel rolling down the hill in a lot of ways. So as far as like inspections, what you're talking about, is that a big thing on the commercial side as far as sometimes having like like with a residential home, a lot of times like, hey, we'd like to see this fixed or this kind of whatever on the house. Is that a common thing on a commercial side of real estate at all?
Yeah, so the end of last year, I bought a 22,000 square foot commercial building. It was the first one that my husband and I purchased, just us. Everything else we've done commercial had been with a group of partners that we really like and have other business endeavors with. And this one we purchased just us, and we did the full inspection. And a lot of times your residential guys will also do commercial inspections because it's the same thing on a bigger scale. And what all did we get? We had them like replace the back fence. We had some things done. And this one had sat on the market for a while. So there's more
like leverage there.
Yeah, we got it at a good price. We got some work done to it. And the cool thing that I think real estate agents miss out on is rolling their commission into the deals.
Yeah, you had mentioned that.
Yeah, because why would you get paid on that and pay taxes on that?
It's your own deal kind of scenario. Yeah,
I'll roll it all in there. Yeah, I'm not going to roll it in there for you.
Right, you're not making money, you're giving away money. But no, it makes sense. Like why? And you're saying a lot of them don't do that.
I don't think they do. Yeah. I really don't think that's as widely used as it should be.
Sure.
But I think it's a brilliant way to just you roll it right in. So, for example, the one that we escalated up on, the one we just purchased, or even that commercial one, those are our two most recent ones. My commission went into the down payment.
Yeah.
So it's less cash you have to bring to close.
Yeah.
It's actually the first time I've done a cost segregation study was on that large commercial we purchased at the end of last year. So I think you just, as you grow, you learn so many different tips and tricks.
Right.
And I would say for like new investors, like you have an awesome agent, and I'm sure he invests and does things as well. And so it's like when you work with people who have been doing it, they protect you from pitfalls. Like so many things, somebody's like, I don't want to invest in real estate because what if I have to do an eviction? Well, I had an eviction I was going to have to file this week for a client. Okay. A client, not me. And I just employed the same thing I always do. I called them up. I'm like, look, do you really want an eviction? Just like clean it up, get your stuff out. We'll hold the security deposit, leave in 2 weeks. They had paid a partial payment already. Plus you're capturing the full security deposit, and they get out, they clean it, they take their trash out, and they'll leave in 7 days or so. Like if you're a proactive, not a reactive. You get them before, like no one goes 30 days and doesn't pay us. Otherwise, you've got your eviction filed already, right?
Yeah.
Unless we're in communication with them working something out.
Right.
But that's also back to having a good property manager and being involved.
The biggest part of that being proactive and upfront and honest with everybody.
Have to.
And now you have that story to kind of relate to your clients too. Like, I was affected this way. That's why I'm going to make sure you're not kind of a scenario. And so they can trust you. Well, cool. Well, Andrea, I appreciate you coming on the show. I never know where these conversations are going to lead.
Yeah.
I look forward to kind of getting to know you more over the years to come. Is there a good place for anyone to reach you if they did want to invest in real estate, as far as where they can find you in that sense?
For sure. Coughtry, Coughtry Enterprises, Instagram or CoughtryEnterprises.com. That's our website. Andrea at CoughtryEnterprises.com. My admin info at CoughtryEnterprises.com. Just know Coughtry. And that's you will find us. Yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And we will see everybody on another episode of the Keys to Commonwealth podcast next week.
To learn more about this podcast, visit our page at keystothecommonwealth.com. To connect with Landry regarding insuring your investment portfolio, email Landry at novainsuranceGroup.com or call 859-687-2004.